Today, Barack Obama talked about his own tax policy and promised to simplify what he called a monstrous tax code. But White House correspondent Wendell Goler reports there are many critics who think the president has done more harm than good.
There's only one thing the president and his critics really agree on in terms of taxes.
I know that April 15th is not exactly everyone's favorite date on the calendar.
Backed by some people who stand to gain from them, President Obama insisted his tax changes will help far more people than they'll hurt.
This tax cut will reach 120 million families and put $120 billion directly into their pockets.
But Chris Chocola of the Club for Growth says the president's tax cut is more like welfare.
What we really are doing is spending through the tax code. We're giving people a check from the government that don't pay taxes.
Mr. Obama says tax cuts for lower-income Americans are more fair and do more to stimulate the economy, and his aides deny they go to people who don't pay taxes.
They may not pay federal income taxes, but they do pay payroll taxes, and those payroll taxes can be quite significant.
Republicans say allowing the Bush administration tax cuts to expire on higher-income Americans will hurt some small businesses, but the two sides don't agree who'll be affected.
We've made a clear promise that families that earn less than $250,000 a year will not see their taxes increase by a single dime.
Some conservatives claim that figure is more like $209,000 a year. And while the president says the top rates will return to the 38% of the Clinton era, Greg Mankiw, who headed President Bush's Council of Economic Advisors, says, quote, the top effective marginal tax rate rises from 37.9% to roughly 48 to 50%. The critics' real complaint is government spending.
There is no way that we're going to avoid having to implement new taxes to pay for the spending that we're engaged in today.
The president has repeatedly said the spending is necessary to pull us out of the recession, and there was mixed news today. Consumer prices fell in March, the first time in 54 years, and industrial production continued a long slide. But the Federal Reserve said other economic activity seems to be stabilizing. Meanwhile, for those Americans struggling to finish their tax returns by midnight, the president feels your pain.
We need to simplify a monstrous tax code that is far too complicated for most Americans to understand, but just complicated enough for the insiders who know how to game the system.
The president wants a report on tax reform by the end of the year. Meanwhile, he and the First Lady released their own tax returns today, all but a fraction of their $2.7 million in income last year from sales of his books and CDs. They paid $855,000 in federal taxes and gave $172,000 to charity. Brett?